Joining me on the program now from the Salvation Army Social Policy and Parliamentary Unit, Lt Col Ian Hutson. Kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Kia ora, good to be here.
This is a difficult problem to solve, in part because there's, a myriad of complex causal factors, but would that be fair to say that the problem of homelessness, we're not only failing to tackle it, it seems to be getting worse?
Yes, that's the feel, and what you said about measurable. We wish that the government and others would be measuring it more carefully, because we can't actually quantify it. Well, it's one of the things that we're trying to do. We know it's getting worse, but there's not really a comprehensive sort of analysis of that, and that's something that we're trying to address in what we call the homelessness project that we're working with other organisations on.
And now I understand you also recently attended a Aotearoa Homelessness Summit in Tauranga. I suppose people all working in the same area coming together to compare notes. What were some of the views and findings of that summit, Ian?
Well, some of the people, a lot of different community organisations were there. There were some governmental people. We did have Tama Pōtaka Minister there for one brief period, but and the Mayor of Tauranga. It was held in Tauranga. But we had councils. In fact, the councils had a full day beforehand, because councils, in some ways, the people that end up having to try to deal with these issues all around the country. And so they were particularly concerned. So they had a whole day on their own, and then they joined all of us other community organisations that came together to discuss, and people expressing big concern. I think one of the amazing things about it was we didn't know the date of that conference till inside 2 months. So it was like a month and a half. And I thought, well, no one's going to be able to make the time. But over 300 people showed up, and the place was packed out. And it just really did genuinely show that there's a lot of organisations but really concerned about the situation as it is.
It is certainly an area which I think there's general concern over. As you say, the councils, they're the ones that have to deal with the complaints of people sleeping rough and some of the antisocial behaviour sometimes associated with that. For the average New Zealander, seeing people who are rough sleeping, obviously people are concerned about that, but I suspect that this is only the tip of the iceberg. A lot of homelessness is, as you say, difficult to measure, because it's not on the street outside the local library. It's in cars, it's sleeping in people's lounges or in caravans, still homeless in terms of the standard of the accommodation, but perhaps more difficult to measure.
It is, and I think when we were discussing it at the conference, one of the things we said, it's obviously alarming and not good that we've got people more visible, but in one way it actually puts it and makes people aware that there is a problem, and once you acknowledge there's a problem, you hope that people will galvanise around to find ways to actually address it.
I mean, that's the other important part of organisations such as yourself, is to be able to gather together to compare notes, to say, hey, this is something that we're trying that seems to be working. Let's compare ideas where we can tackle homelessness. Complex situations, but there are some good news stories out there, Ian.
There are, and I know a lot of our services, particularly places like transitional housing, you hear wonderful stories of people who were going really descending into a level of poverty and anxiety, and then just managing to get them into a transitional house, and then eventually into a long-term, and they describe, many of these people describe it as being like transformational, just to have that place that they're secure, they can base their lives on. The warm, the dry, like you say, going into winter, it's even more of an issue.
And it's not just
than it used to be, and the support to keep people in tenancies isn't as strong as it was, or it never was strong enough
Yeah.
in many ways, but it's got even less. So that, for example, if you fall short on the rent, some people don't know what they can do about it, and they don't get the financial advice or support, and they don't face often too ashamed to face the fact that they don't know. They kind of hide from resolving the situation.
Yeah.
And the next thing they know, that because they won't front up to the landlord, they avoidant, they get discharged, and then it's really hard to get back in because you've deemed to have caused your eviction. Whereas if
Yeah.
they'd had some support, that might not have needed to happen.
The sort of wraparound support that agencies such as yourself offer. Now, very much appreciate the work that you do, both Salvation Army on the ground and in communities, providing housing for desperate people, but also in the work that you guys do at the Social Policy Unit, involved with the research and policy suggestions on what is an ongoing and complicated issue. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.